I have an online coaching client making $100,000 a month, and he's taking 0 sales calls to make this happen. In fact, everything he does is through the DMs and not even a seller in his DMs. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly what you need to have, how you need to say it in order to sell packages as big as 10K in B2C or B2B markets in the DMs with no sales call. And also what you need to avoid if you don't want to get on Zoom to, make sales happen. Because I don't know why it is that coaching businesses are super excited to hire a setter and hire a closer, because they think that doing that is like you get an achievement medal of some sorts. You don't. First, I want to make something absolutely clear. One thing you have to avoid absolutely is please don't have any sales calls for any product that's below $1,000, please. Especially if you're running ads, the numbers just don't make sense. Probably you have a setter, a closer, you have to pay commission, plus you're buying the sales calls to happen. And then you probably have a 60% short rate. So you're paying probably what, $800 to get a sale, your cost of acquisition. So you're making $200. No, we don't need that. So first thing is, why does this even matter? Most people default to the closer game because they think it's the only way to sell high ticket coaching programs. You're taught wrong, and I don't blame you. There's a lot of remote sales offers out there in the market, out there in Instagram, selling to people who want to become closers, and they pump out fake demand for these closers. And it's not a necessity, honestly. You don't need a sales calls to close. You just need certainty. And we're going to go over this. You need certainty in your offer, and you just need to know what to say in the DMs to make this happen. You don't need to have a closing call to do the heavy lifting for you. Okay, so let's get into when no sales calls works best and when it doesn't. Selling offers up to 10K. I've seen this work with no sales calls. It can absolutely work. My client's done it, and we've done it repeatedly. So one of the many ways you can do this and make it happen is through offer stacking. Now, the client that I told you about, he doesn't do this, but I do have another client that's doing offer stacking with a tripwire funnel. And it doesn't have to be 47. It can be as low as $5, $9, but it just has to be very specific on the offer that you're running. And the messaging has to be really good. So for example, you have a $47 tripwire funnel, and through the correct systems, through the correct email and the messaging, you can do an upsell to a $9.97 do it yourself. So for example, this could be a recipe book, bad example, but you get what I'm saying, recipe book. And this could be, a community where we build you out your nutrition plan, your training plan, and your mindset plan, whatever, $9.97. And from there, you can do a done for you inside of that community. We call this hidden funnels, where people can't really do funnel hacking. But that's one of the ways you can do it. My client's just going directly to the 6K, and it's not even done for you. We're crushing it. All the magic that happens is through the messaging. But I do have another client doing a tripwire funnel with a $19 recipe book. Straight to recipe book to, I think it's 3K done for you program. But again, anything below $1,000, it's really not worth it getting on a sales call. So I just want to hammer that point home. If you're doing sales calls for anything that's below $1,000, and what I mean is, if you're doing some sort of coaching that's maybe $600 a month, and the minimum you do is maybe 5 months, so you're doing, can't math, let's just say $500 a month, and you do it five months minimum, and it's $2,500, then I think it's okay to go on a sales call for this. But you can easily sell that in the DMs or through emails. Okay, now I've mentioned that one of the many ways of doing this is offer stacking through a tripwire funnel, but I want to just go walk you through 3 different types of, I call this no-call funnels. So one is a mini VSL, direct to cart. I have a couple of clients doing this, which the mini VSL, the only requirement about this is that it has to be extremely specific on the pain points that your customer is facing. So if you map this out on the industry sophistication chart, for a mini VSL to be effective, it has to be at least below 15 minutes. But the key here is to make sure that the clientele you're working on is extremely problem aware and solution aware, not specifically offer aware, but solution aware, understanding what they need to do in order to solve their problem. It has to be very specific. But I've seen this work great for $1,000 or $2,000 program. If your VSL has a lot of proof, a lot of clarity, and there isn't hypey about it. It's not false scarcity kind of BS that we see now. The other one that I've seen work very cool is kind of like a training / webinar direct to application and direct to payment. The webinar can be a tripwire. It could be like I've seen this work where it's not free specifically, but it's a $1 tripwire. And the cool thing about this is that if you charge that $1 or $5, you save their credit card information, and that way it's a much easier payment. So you can do this, and it could be live or it could be evergreen. I prefer evergreen, honestly. The other one is, I think we talked about this above, is just low ticket ascension path. It requires, the only thing with this one is that if you're doing some sort of community or some sort of offer that requires your continued support and love, having a low ticket offer and program does require time from your side, because you have to ensure that what you're doing here, that offer, which is, if ideally it's not a lot of hands-on, but if it's hands-on community, you have all this stuff, it has to be a good program, because people are going to judge you based on the quality of your program, and they're going to make those assumptions, and they're going to decide whether or not they work with you at a higher level based on the type of information you're giving, the type of love you're giving. Many times I've actually bought programs that are like low ticket, like 97, and I've seen the upsells, and the community and the programs are just horrible. They're just bad, and they want to upsell you for a done for you funnel package for like $9.97, but like the community and the $97 paid for was just trash. So I'm not going to buy into that. So again, my client example, he's selling a $6,000 mentorship program entirely through DMs, no sales calls, no fancy funnels, no landing pages, nothing. It's literally just straight up direct conversations in the DMs and literally a Stripe link to get access. That's it. So if you've nailed your credibility over time, you've been in the trenches, you know what you're talking about, you have good social proof, you don't need sales calls. You can build enough trust, build enough clarity in the DMs, understand very key things. One, that they have a problem you can actually solve. Don't be a horrible person. Number two, they understand that they have a problem. Number three, that they want to solve this problem, because that's a different story if they don't want to solve the problem. And number four, that they're actually willing and able to put in the work, especially if you don't have a done for you program. It's a more of like done with you kind of thing, hybrid program. And you've heard me say this many times in this video, trust and authority. That's just the key ingredient. Like, you can't make this happen if you don't have a lot of trust or authority, unless you're selling to a market that is very, very needy of the thing that you're selling, and you're selling purely off of desperation, and that's just horrible. But very simply, it's not about scripts. I'm not going to give you a script. It's not about having the perfect thing to say in the perfect DM or timing. It's not about that. It's genuinely like, it's not overcomplicating things. We run this through a 4C's framework, which is, if you lead the conversation with curiosity, meaning ask a lot of why questions, gain the leverage to ask the why questions first, genuinely be curious about the person and the problem that you're trying to solve, have clarity, meaning having clarity from their side, so ask specific clarifying questions, and also you give out a lot of clarity as well. Care, huge, like care about the other person, like actually care, don't be a horrible person, like be a chill person, care about the person. And when you're pitching your thing, conviction, like have conviction in knowing the fact that you can solve this problem that they have. You understand specifically with clear, full understanding about the problem that they have. Just have the conviction to say, here's the thing, here's how much it is, here's the link. Have the conviction to actually pitch. I want to see you be sure about what you're doing. Okay, this is actually super important. At higher scales, 20K plus month, 100K plus months, sales calls do give you speed, because if you're at that point where you're at 30K a month, 50K a month, you are doing a lot of fulfillment, especially if you're selling something that's 9K, 10K, you are promising a good outcome, I'm guessing. And there's a lot of fulfillment that needs to happen. So yes, sales calls give you speed because you're not in the DMs, you're not having handling conversations. So sales calls can be a good thing, because in an hour, you can just sell something, especially if you have a good seller in place. It can boost conversions, but that's not the case for all. Now, I'm not saying calls are evil. I'm not saying closers are completely necessary. I just need you to understand that they are a tool, and they have a place in your business based on where you're at the moment. Don't be lazy that just because you hired a setter, or you hire a closer and you hire a setter's placement agency, that everything's going to be taken care of. Just so you know, the sales department in your company is going to have the most amount of churn. Setters churn all the time. In fact, with one of my clients, we're having that issue. Like, we got to a point where we scaled that. We're getting a lot of people, a lot of good leads through the door, but setters are just churning. Sometimes they're just looking for quick money. Sometimes they just want a part-time position. And then you hire a setter placement agency, and they just want to place a setter in your company. But all the job of the setter placement company is to make sure they have a bunch of people in their ecosystem so they can place quickly. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of churn. And this is to say, and I'm not trying to paint a bad picture here, especially for setting placement companies, because I have friends who do those. It's just that you have to understand that just because you place a setter in your DMs, that everything's going to be fixed. But what I'm saying is, you have to understand that even if you have a setter, it's not a quick fix. You have to train them. You have to walk them through the process, and you have to know how to set. You have to know how to run the position that you're trying to hire, because then how are you going to train them? How do you know they're doing a good job? So don't be lazy. And yes, I know that not having any sales calls sounds good, and having a funnel where you don't have to take calls sounds awesome, but there is a process to get there. So my perspective on all this is the following. If you're stuck thinking, I need to take 100 calls a month to sell high ticket, you don't. What you really need to focus on right now is And I know it sounds boring, and I know I say this all the time in my videos. You have to really focus and hone down on your foundational stuff. You need to understand that there are 3 levers you can pull for maximum output so you can start scaling the right way. Just hiring closers and hiring setters are like this piece of the puzzle. If you really want to understand, like the next step for you right now, if you really want to understand the 3 levers that you need to pull, which are how to create content that gives me the attention I need from the right leads and the right prospects, and then how do I monetize and liquidate that amount of attention, which by the way, all that we covered right here with is not having sales goal. That's just one way of monetizing your attention. And lastly, once you have this system going, how do you create the operations behind it? So for example, with my client right now, closing 6K deals in the DMs with no sales calls, no funnels, and anything. Now it's how do we take that to the next level? What type of operations do we need to have? What type of emails do we need to write and all that sort? If you want to see how that looks, click the video on the screen right now. It's a full training on all these 3 levers, and I break it down in a way that it's very simple to say, okay, I want to apply that in my business, which connects to this. And then if I do this, and this is the operations that I need to have in my business. So click the video that's on the screen right now. That's going to help you tremendously. For now, I'll see you in the next one.